Lord. So if you're just joining us tonight, we're in part 3 of our series on the book of Galatians. It's called The Life of Freedom. And all year long, from September up until about the next month, we've been talking about how can we live more fully alive. I think a lot of us just feel like the circumstances in our lives, or maybe the life stages we're at, kind of numb us, kind of deaden us, and kind of rob us of joy and freedom and the life that God really desires for each and every one of us. And so our prayer this year has been that God would help us live more fully alive. St. Irenaeus says the glory of God is people, or people fully alive. And that's how we've been wanting to live. And so to kind of cap that off, we're all talking about freedom, because we cannot live alive while we're living in bondage and slavery. And so throughout the series, we've been talking about how we need freedom from certain things in life, whatever those might be, freedom from. And think about, if you were to live free, what would be eliminated from your life? What would not be inhibiting you? What would be stopping you from living free? If that was just lifted, what would help you live more freely if it wasn't there? But we're not just freed from things, but we're also freed for the life that God really desires for us. And what aspect of that life might you like to have in your own life to be free from? Galatians 5:1 says, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. So we're talking all about that, and I'm excited. I'm going to get to meet the author of this book we've been talking about. It's called Traveling Light by Eugene Peterson. It's a commentary on Galatians. So I said I'll be gone the next large group time. I'll be hanging out with him. It should be kind of fun. But he wrote this in the 80s about the way that his congregation wasn't living a free life. And I think even though that's a long time ago, like, how many of you guys were, anyone here not born in the 80s? How many folks not born in the 80s? Yeah, I know, we're getting old. Scott, not born in the 80s. Nice, I like that. I was born in 83, so I'm about to hit 30 in November. But it's amazing how these words written so long ago still ring true today. And here's what Peterson writes about this life of freedom. He says, there are moments when a single truth cries out for proclamation. For me, one of these moments came in the early 80s when I looked at the people I was living with as a pastor. I realized how free they were. They were overcome with anxieties in the face of rising inflation. They were pessimistic about the prospects for justice and peace in the world, bristling with sophisticated weapon systems and nuclear devices. They were living huddled, worried, defensive lives. I wanted to shout out an objection. Don't live that way. You are Christians. Our lives can be a growth into freedom instead of a withdrawal into anxious worriness. I became determined to seek ways in which I could awaken and hunger a thirst for the free life among people who had lost an appetite for it, and then, having awakened the appetite, to find the food and drink that would satisfy it. So I set myself deliberately between Paul's words in Galatians, which we're going to continue reading tonight, and the world in which I lived and where our church was. I attempted to keep both elements in tension in my imagination and my ministry. The element of Galatians churning and surging with the energy of freedom, and the element of people who have given up on freedom, who live apathetically and fatalistically. We're all too guilty of living like that sometimes. He says freedom is not an abstraction, and it is not a thing. It is a gift. It is a skill. And I love this vision it captures right here. Maybe living out this Christ freedom is a gift we can offer the world as it passes its millennial milestone. We've done a little bit ago, and we all survived Y2K, praise God. But I still think the need for Christians to be actually living and experiencing freedom, as the Bible talks about it, we're in desperate need for that. I think I'm in desperate need for that, because I've really been letting this kind of just soak in my life and just kind of wash over me. I realize there's so many things that I find myself not living freely with, and I want to be free from that so I can live fully alive. By God's grace, I hope that we can do that, and I hope He does that in your lives too. So we're going to jump in, and we're going to take some time to study Galatians 3. We're going to read every verse in here tonight, so I hope if you didn't bring your Bibles, you can turn, actually you can just follow along on the screen. So if you have your Bibles, turn with me to Galatians 3. We'll kind of take a little bit of a chunk at a time and then kind of walk through things, and I think tonight we'll really understand how the gospel brings freedom like we've maybe never ever seen before. So I'm excited for that. But as you're thinking about that, take just a moment right now, just to pause and think, what might my life be like if I lived it with greater freedom? What would the thoughts would be if you were living a more free life. And so the Apostle Paul helps us to ground our imagination in the truth in life that does, in fact, set us free. So let's pick up where we left off. We'll start with Galatians 1, or Galatians 3, verses 1 through 5. Follow along the screen here. You foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? It was before your eyes that Jesus Christ was publicly exhibited as crucified. The only thing I want to learn from you is this. Did you receive the Spirit by doing the works of the law or by believing what you heard? Are you so foolish?